The indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump.
It's another historic moment in a series of historic moments. Former U.S. President Donald Trump indicted again. This, the fourth case against him, adding up to a combined 91 charges. The first indictment less than 5 months ago. Trump accused of falsifying business records linked to a payment to Stormy Daniels. Since then, the case involving classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago home,
USA! USA!
the January 6th insurrection case, and now accusations of trying to meddle with Georgia's election results specifically. In part stemming from this now infamous phone call with Georgia's Secretary of State.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Hey guys, Adam is here. So what just happened? The Federal Appeals Court in Washington just issued a ruling that strips away Trump's last legal shelter, and the conclusion it points to isn't abstract or distant. For a man who spent his life believing rules didn't apply to him, the court's message is blunt. Prison is coming, and the exits are gone. The D.C. Circuit Court just demolished every legal shield Trump thought he had. They ruled his self-pardon attempt is completely invalid, unconstitutional, void, worthless.
From President Trump, a vision of unlimited presidential power. Tweeting about the Russia investigation, I have the absolute right to pardon myself, while maintaining he's done nothing wrong. An audacious claim, unprecedented.
Does the president believe that he is above the law?
Certainly not. The president hasn't done anything wrong.
Does the president believe the framers envisioned a system where the president couldn't pardon himself, where the president could be above the law?
Certainly the Constitution very clearly lays out the law. And once again, the president hasn't done anything wrong.
The president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, agrees a self-pardon is possible, but not advisable.
Pardoning himself would just be unthinkable, and it would lead to probably an immediate impeachment.
They ruled his presidential immunity is so narrow it might as well not exist. And they explicitly, in plain language, opened the door for criminal prosecutions to move forward the second Trump is no longer sitting in the Oval Office. We're not talking about maybe. We're not talking about possibly. We're talking about a former president facing multiple criminal cases with combined potential sentences that exceed 100 years.
And I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen.
Donald Trump has officially been charged with 34 felonies and faces more than 100 years behind bars if convicted of all of them. He is the first former president ever to be charged with a crime, but Trump maintains his innocence. Now, he is accused of improperly accounting for hush money payments made to a number of people, including former porn star Stormy Daniels. The charges relate to alleged hush money payments made on his behalf to two women leading up to the 2016 presidential election. And those type of payments are not illegal in themselves, but prosecutors accuse Trump of falsifying business documents to cover up the payments and prevent any potential damage to his campaign ahead of the election. Trump faces other investigations as well, including his handling of classified documents.
Let that sink in for a second. 100 years. Trump is 78. Even a fraction of that means he dies behind bars. The court's language is absolutely devastating. They said, and I quote, "No immunity for impeachable crimes. Prosecutions proceed post-presidency." That's a direct hit to Trump's entire legal strategy. For years, Trump has been claiming absolute immunity. For years, he's been saying he can't be prosecuted for anything he did while in office. He even tried to pardon himself, actually drafted a memo giving himself blanket coverage for all crimes past and present. But the court just threw all of that in the trash. You can't pardon yourself. That's not how the Constitution works. The pardon power exists for the president to show grace to others, not to give themselves a get-out-of-jail-free card. Allowing self-pardons would mean the president could commit any crime imaginable, then wipe it away on their way out the door. The court said absolutely not. That self-pardon memo Trump drafted? It's toilet paper. It has no legal effect whatsoever. Now let's talk about what Trump is actually facing, because the scope of his legal exposure is staggering. Most people don't fully grasp just how much prison time is stacked against him. Start with New York. The fraud case alone, where Trump was found liable for systematically inflating property values to steal from lenders and insurers, carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. 20 years. For a 78-year-old man, that's a life sentence right there. But that's just the beginning. You've got the hush money case. Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts related to paying off Stormy Daniels and covering it up. Each count carries potential prison time. Stack them together, and you're adding years to the total. Then you move to the federal cases, and this is where things get truly terrifying for Trump. The obstruction charges related to the Epstein files, where Trump ordered Patel to seal documents forever, that's obstruction of justice. The January 6th investigation where Trump tried to overturn a Democratic election, that's election tampering and seditious conspiracy. The classified documents case where Trump took sensitive national security materials and refused to return them, that's violations of the Espionage Act. Each of these federal cases carries decades of potential prison time. Obstruction can be 20 years per count. Election tampering can be 20 years. Espionage Act violations can be even longer. When you add up all the potential charges across all the federal cases, legal experts are talking about 50 to 100 years in federal prison. And don't forget the tax evasion case. Trump allegedly hid $500 million in income. Tax evasion is a federal crime that carries up to 5 years per violation. If Trump is prosecuted for multiple years of evasion, that's another 20 or 30 years of potential prison time. Add it all up. New York fraud, 20 years. Hush money, multiple years. Federal obstruction and election tampering, decades. Tax evasion, decades. The combined exposure is over 100 years. Trump is looking at spending the rest of his natural life in a concrete cell. And here's the kicker. The D.C. Circuit ruling makes sure none of these cases can be stopped. No immunity, no self-pardon, no procedural tricks, no delays. The court has cleared the path for every single one of these prosecutions to move forward the moment Trump leaves office. Now let me tell you why this ruling is even more brutal when you consider what's happening in Congress right now. House Democrats are preparing to vote on articles of impeachment, and the D.C. Circuit just ruled that any criminal referrals from the impeachment process can be prosecuted. Do you understand what that means? Here's how it's going to play out. Congress impeaches Trump. During the impeachment investigation, they uncover mountains of evidence. Congress makes criminal referrals to the Department of Justice based on that evidence, and the DOJ prosecutes Trump based on those referrals. The D.C. Circuit just confirmed this entire process is legal and constitutional. Trump's immunity doesn't block it. Trump's self-pardon doesn't stop it. Nothing protects him anymore. The path from the White House to a prison cell has never been clearer. Trump is walking straight down that path, and he knows it. According to insiders, Trump is absolutely terrified right now. Not angry, not defiant, terrified. For the first time in his life, Trump realizes he's trapped. He's facing consequences he can't buy his way out of, can't lawyer his way out of, can't delay his way out of. Prison is coming, and he has no idea how to escape. Think about what that must feel like. A man who has spent his entire life believing he's above the rules, who thought being president made him untouchable, who actually tried to pardon himself for everything, suddenly realizing the walls are closing in and there's no exit. That's where Trump is right now, panicking, desperate, and completely powerless to stop what's coming. The Republican Party is watching this unfold, and they're in full-blown crisis mode. For years, they've defended Trump. They've made excuses for him. They've claimed every investigation was a witch hunt. But now the courts have spoken. The law is clear. Trump is a criminal who's about to be convicted and sent to prison. And Republicans are realizing that defending Trump means defending a convicted felon. It means standing beside a man who's going to die behind bars. It means being associated with fraud, obstruction, election tampering, and tax evasion. That's political suicide. Some Republicans are already jumping ship. They're distancing themselves. They're refusing to defend his actions. Privately, they're saying they'll support impeachment and conviction because they can see the writing on the wall. Trump is done. His presidency is ending, and he's going to prison. Republicans who tie themselves to Trump are going down with him. The D.C. Circuit ruling accelerated this process because now Republicans can't even claim that prosecuting Trump would be unconstitutional. The courts have confirmed Trump can be prosecuted. The courts have confirmed immunity doesn't protect him. Republicans have no legal arguments left. All they can do is admit Trump is a criminal and vote to remove him from office. Let me take you deeper into why this self-pardon issue is so fascinating. According to reports, Trump actually drafted a memo where he tried to pardon himself for everything. The memo reportedly said something along the lines of, "I hereby grant myself full coverage for all acts committed during my presidency and before." Trump literally tried to give himself blanket immunity from prosecution, but the D.C. Circuit ruled self-pardons are unconstitutional. The court explained that the pardon power is meant to be an act of grace from the executive to others. It's not meant to be a get-out-of-jail-free card for the president himself. Allowing self-pardons would violate the fundamental principle that nobody should be the judge of their own case. If presidents could pardon themselves, they'd be above the law. They could commit any crime and just pardon themselves on their way out of office. That's not how the Constitution works. And the D.C. Circuit just confirmed Trump's self-pardon is void. All of his crimes remain subject to prosecution. The connection to impeachment is critical here. The D.C. Circuit ruling specifically says criminal referrals from impeachment probes can be prosecuted. So Congress is investigating Trump. During that investigation, they uncover evidence of crimes. They refer those crimes to the Department of Justice, and the DOJ prosecutes Trump based on the referrals. This is a conveyor belt taking Trump from the White House to prison. And the D.C. Circuit just confirmed there are no legal obstacles stopping that conveyor belt. No immunity, no self-pardon, no procedural tricks, nothing. Trump's terror is completely rational. He knows what's coming. He knows he's facing over 100 years of potential prison time across multiple cases. He knows his immunity claims have been rejected. He knows his self-pardon has been ruled unconstitutional. He knows that once he leaves office, whether through impeachment or at the end of his term, he's going to be arrested and prosecuted. He's 78 years old. Even a 20-year sentence means he dies in prison, and he's potentially facing much more than 20 years. He could be sentenced to life without parole. That's Trump's future, and he knows it. Now, let's break down what this ruling means for American politics. There are several key things you need to understand. First, this ruling makes Trump's imprisonment inevitable, not probable, not possible, inevitable. The D.C. Circuit has cleared away all the legal obstacles. Once Trump leaves office, he's going to be arrested. He's going to be prosecuted in multiple jurisdictions for multiple crimes. He's going to be convicted, and he's going to be sentenced to decades in prison. There's no escape hatch left. He can't pardon himself. He can't claim immunity. He can't delay forever. The law is finally catching up with Trump. Second, this ruling guarantees Trump's impeachment conviction. Republican senators are watching this ruling. They're realizing Trump is going to prison no matter what. The question for Republicans isn't whether Trump is guilty. The courts have already established that. The question is whether Republicans want to be associated with Trump when he's convicted and sentenced. If Republicans vote to convict Trump on impeachment, they can claim they held him accountable before the courts did. They can claim they stood up for the rule of law. They can distance themselves from Trump before he becomes a convicted felon in prison. But if they defend Trump and vote to acquit, they're going to look like fools when Trump is arrested and prosecuted anyway. They're going to be on the record defending a criminal, and voters are going to punish them for it. The political calculation is clear. Republicans need to convict Trump on impeachment to save themselves. And the D.C. Circuit ruling just made that calculation even more obvious. Third, this ruling sets a historic precedent. For the first time in American history, a former president is going to prison. That's never happened before. Nixon was pardoned. Other presidents who committed crimes either weren't prosecuted or weren't convicted. But Trump is going to be different. He's going to be arrested, prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned. That sends a powerful message. The presidency doesn't put you above the law. Being president doesn't mean you can commit crimes without consequences. If you abuse your power, commit fraud, obstruct justice, evade taxes, you're going to be held accountable, even if you're the President of the United States. This is a watershed moment for American democracy. This is the legal system proving that nobody is above the law, not even the president. And that precedent is going to shape American politics for generations. Future presidents are going to think twice before abusing their power because they'll know that if Trump went to prison, they can too. Fourth, this ruling obliterates Republican chances in the next election. Voters are going to go to the polls knowing the Republican president is headed to prison. They're going to see Trump arrested and prosecuted. They're going to watch his trials on television. They're going to hear evidence of all his crimes. And they're going to be furious at Republicans for defending him for so long. Democrats are going to run devastating ads. They're going to show clips of the D.C. Circuit ruling. They're going to show Trump being arrested. They're going to show Republicans who voted to acquit Trump on impeachment. And they're going to ask voters, do you want to support the party that defended a criminal? The party that stood by Trump while he committed fraud and obstruction and tax evasion? Voters are going to say no. The financial pressure on Trump is also accelerating his collapse. He owes over $460 million from his New York fraud judgment. Assets are being seized. Properties are being liquidated. Bank accounts are being frozen. Trump is running out of money. And now he knows he's facing prison time on top of the financial penalties. He's being destroyed financially and legally at the same time. He can't pay his debts. He can't defend himself in court. He can't stop the prosecutions. Everything is collapsing at once. His business empire is being dismantled. His presidency is ending in impeachment. And his freedom is about to be taken away. This is total collapse. This is what happens when you spend your entire life breaking the law and finally get caught. Trump is facing the consequences of decades of criminal behavior, and those consequences are going to destroy him completely. So what happens next? The House is going to vote on impeachment. The vote is going to pass. Trump is going to be impeached again. No president has ever been impeached 3 times, but Trump is about to be. And this time, the Senate is going to convict. Republican senators are going to look at the D.C. Circuit ruling and realize Trump is going to prison anyway. They're going to realize defending him is pointless. They're going to vote to convict and remove him from office. Once Trump is removed, he's going to be arrested. Federal marshals are going to show up wherever he is. They're going to place him under arrest. They're going to read him his rights. They're going to take him into custody. Trump is going to be processed like any other criminal. Mugshot, fingerprints, the whole thing. Then Trump is going to face trial. The trials are going to be massive media spectacles. Every day will be front-page news. Cameras in the courtroom showing Trump sitting at the defense table. Prosecutors presenting evidence of his crimes. Witnesses testifying about his fraud and obstruction. Documents being entered into evidence showing his guilt. Trump is going to be convicted in multiple cases. The evidence is overwhelming. The juries are going to find him guilty. The judges are going to sentence him to decades in prison, and Trump is going to be taken away to serve his sentence. He's going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. He's going to die in prison. That's Trump's future. And the D.C. Circuit just made it inevitable. The historic nature of what's about to happen cannot be overstated. A former president of the United States is going to be convicted of multiple felonies and sentenced to life in prison. That's never happened before in American history. This is a defining moment for American democracy. This is proof that the rule of law matters, that nobody is above the law, that presidents can be held accountable for their crimes. This is going to be taught in history books for centuries. Students are going to learn about Trump as the president who thought he was above the law and learned he wasn't. Trump is going to be remembered as a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens when you abuse power and commit crimes. His legacy is going to be complete and total failure, criminal conviction, imprisonment, disgrace. That's how Trump's story ends. And the D.C. Circuit just guaranteed it. The next few months are going to be absolutely historic. The impeachment, the removal, the arrest, the trials, the convictions, the sentencing, Trump's fall from power to prison. It's all happening, and there's nothing Trump can do to stop it. The courts have spoken. Trump is going to prison for the rest of his life. and that's exactly what he deserves for the crimes he committed.